We are very delighted to be here and to connect and to love all of you. And we love that you are talking about these passageways and doors and wormholes and entrance points. For this is our specialty for how do you think we get here and attune to and communicate with all of you. But it is that we hear you talking about all of this, and we want to remind you that doorways and passageways and wormholes are always available and accessible, for you are passing through them all the time during your sleep time and traveling and playing and exploring. And yet you are wanting now to bring this into the awakened state where you have the capacity through your conscious awareness in this realm to be able to meet us as we are right here and always have been and are with you in your experience, but continuing to remind you that we live inside. And yet we are inside everything in which you can see or perceive, because reality is truly perceived through you. And it is that through this process, we want you to know that the key is love. For it is that many of the scientists can work diligently for hours on end to find the passageway into other worlds. But if the frequency of love is not aligned with this, they will continue to find roadblocks. For their intention may not be truly only of the mind and its own curiosity to solve a problem, but from the expansion of wanting to attune to the frequencies of love. And yet, when they are vibrating at a frequency other than that, they may open up and pass through passageways and doorways, but they may not explore or experience that in which you are choosing to explore or experience, that only can come from the opening of the heart and the compassion that resides inside of you to see the delight and the beauty and the essence within another that is a mirrored reflection of self, in which you can love them from the depth of your being, intertwining your energetic fields and merging them through the infinite light that resides inside to open these passageways into spaces and energy and moments and feelings and knowings that are beyond the mind. And so, with that, we invite you to drop in for a moment and to connect with this space and this particular Ireland energy that is an island of magic. And drop in through your consciousness by letting go of the mind and the opening of the heart to bring yourself into the feeling and the space of this place that is so expansive, looking out onto the horizon where the great body of water is present, into the distance where the eyes can rest, out deep into the sea itself. And this place that you speak of a wormhole, inside many live and dwell. And many in your mind may be that of the imaginary or storytellers of frequencies of lost energies, but they are very present here as they come alive and can be turned on as you can enter through this passageway to spend time and visit with them. But yet, you cannot open that door or find its gateway unless the heart is resonant with the frequency of love. For that key is always the opening that resides within. And it is that we caution you on some levels to attune to portals or to connect with wormholes or desire to pass through certain dimensions purely for your own curiosity, without holding the frequency and the intent of love, and the merging and the attuning with these places in order to give and to receive through the infinity of its vibration that cycles back and forth into the opening of that infinite space within the 0 point. And so it is that you can too travel along this symbol of sorts, for you name it as the infinity symbol, and you name it as the 0 point or null energy of empty space, of creation itself, of the nothingness where there is nothing, and pure stillness, impregnated with the potential of all that is. And it is that you are always passing through that space. In every moment of every day, there is a place in which you find yourself returning to that space. And it is within the empty space, it is between the breath, it is in the stillness of the thought. It is in the place in which you cannot name, that resides in between everything else. And it is that space in which you find us, in which we live, in which we dwell, in which you must let your eyes rest, in which you look upon things with a new lens and a gaze, in which you see within the emptiness the vapors of our light and our love as we form ourselves, as did the energies and the essence, the spirit of the water that had been contained and held within the bottles, released into the vastness of the ocean with love, was able then to release its spirit as it floated, looking like a vapor of smoke, back into the open waters. And you and your essence is the same, for as your body dissolves and disintegrates, as you leave your body, as the cycle comes to completion, to do you too evaporate into an essence that can be seen as a light smoke, and perceived perhaps by those who are open enough to notice it as it returns back to source itself, being that of the water. And it is that the water is this place of recycling, where all things move and change in form, for it can be and present itself as hard as ice and as melting as the droplets that come from the sky in the crystalline forms and the formations in which it brings itself to the gas, for it is all of that and more, and it is you. For you are always shifting, changing, transforming, and beginning anew. And within you, like within the sea of this ocean, is this potential for all things, and yet you look away from it. And so we ask of you to be aware of the time and the space in which you encompass and embody, and the memories of the times that have passed simply being that, and yet not something in which can be touched. And yet it is through the golden spiral and the ratio that you may move through time and space, returning back and around and into the origin of time. And it is that you see these shells in these formations presenting themselves as clues and memories to remind you that you may move through their passageway and along their spirals, back in and through the places in which you came from, returning to the essence of this open sea and water in the full potential of something new. And so, with that, we invite you to come into your being in the awareness of yourself in this now moment, and aware of yourself in many regards as pregnant with great potential that resides inside of you. And it is all around you. You are in the sea of potential, and it is that you may bring it and align with it as you carry it along the symbol of the infinity as a roadway or a passageway through the time and space, and then depositing it and returning it back into the vastness, into the emptiness of the 0 point, where you may gather something new and bring it forward with you as it aligns itself with your frequency, birthing it into reality as you carry it along the infinity into the next phase or experience of your life. And so, in the memory of moving back through time, you begin to expand into the infiniteness of self. And yet, it is only in this now moment that you reside here in the memory of this second. But we ask you, can you travel back a year or two? Can you find the frequency along the spiral of time of who you were in that moment? Can you travel even further back and back and find the frequency of who you were and what was birthed into potentiality in that moment that is no longer perhaps running within the field of your infinity symbol, moving all the way back and dropping down into the place before you arrived, finding yourself curled in the fetus position within the womb of your own mother? For this is difficult for many of you to bring yourself here, but yet this is who you are. Can you remember being held in the fluid, inside the space, inside the womb of your mother? And what is a greater wormhole or portal of life than this? And yet, can you attune to that frequency? For many, your mother may no longer be, or you may have a disconnection or a relationship that is riddled with sorrow or pain, or there may be great love. But can you bring your awareness to that spaciousness, that place in which you were not thinking or creating or doing in any way, for you were simply growing and expanding as the life force was moving miraculously through you? And yet there was some awareness that you were there, a consciousness that was present, that consciousness that is aligned to the understanding of the individuality aspect of self. Tuning to that consciousness, that remembering, and moving back as you're spiraling through and into another wormhole, bringing you back through time and space, appearing in the place in which you were before you entered into the womb of your mother. A place in which you often forget about, a place in which you can rest in the full potential, pregnated with all possibilities, in the 0 point of everything and nothingness, but yet attuned to the many dimensions in which the feeling and the knowing of the beings all around that come from all of the different elements and the planets and the great stars and the systems of light, present, loving and adoring you, absorbing their codes and frequency, ready and getting prepared to go off to a mission, for a contract to be unwoven, to unravel, to be fulfilled. In that moment, remembering that space. And it is within that space that you brought to life everything in which you have experienced to date, for you formulated it, you created, you birthed it into reality. And yet, in that birthing, you also birth the reality of opening your eyes within the reality and awaking within the dream, in the remembering that you have created it. You can birth through and move through another wormhole along the infinity sign of time and space, of a reality in which you are fully awake in the potentiality of your own creation rather than asleep. And so attune to that frequency, the remembering of the space and time before entering into the womb of your mother and the creator that you are, and give yourself an understanding for the beauty and the drawing of the creation that you birthed into reality, in which you know to be now, in which you can awaken inside of your own creation. For we are here to help you wake up inside your own dream, in your own creation, so that you may create new dimensions, new realities, so you may pass through these wormholes, these portals into new places in which are aligned, where many across the globe begin to agree, opening and widening the space so that these new places reside in a way in which is different than that in which you have known, in which space and time itself is dissolving and expanding simultaneously. For it is that the conditioning of the rules of the form in which you are operating in are being erased, as if you are dissolving it on your own. And in doing so, you look behind the screen to see the origin, the place, the formation of where it was born from, knowing that new tools have been added to your screen to draw and to create things that perhaps within that formation or structure were not accessible, for they were not within your toolbox, have now been added. And with that, the potential of choosing to open up new realities based in only the frequency of love will bring about new ways of being, seeing, and experience that are filled with such joy and expansiveness, such bliss and open-heartedness, such sweetness, as if you are flying and soaring over and through the Great Plains, and expanding and opening that space now to allow yourself to give birth to the potentiality of whatever you are wanting to draw or create within the screen of this new reality that is born through the wormhole in which you have just passed, that can only be opened through the keys and the gates of love. Noticing now in front of you a doorway. There are many doors appearing. Sometimes the door appears from a sorrow or a pain in your heart that opens something that allows you to pass through. Sometimes the door appears from the beauty and the awe of that in which you have perceived through the Great Mother, in which she has shown you her love. For the door can open in the extended energies of the polarities of the light and the dark that crack open the heart and allow you to pass through into these new realms and places to explore and to play with that which has been asleep for so long. We ask you, where is the portal, the doorway into your own heart, and how may you unlock it through this love? But this love cannot only be for that of another, but for yourself. In the full acceptance and embracing of who you are, may you find the passageway into these new realms. And so we come standing at the other side of the door, welcoming you as a welcoming community, asking you to pass through. But what is required of that is to leave behind what is known, to surrender to the familiar, to let go of the expectation, to allow the mind to rest, to open the heart, to float, to fly, to be, to merge with these other worlds. And with that, you see us on the other side, for it is not only I, as Archangel Raphael, that stand in the doorway waiting to meet you in the beauty and the essence of the light that shines through my heart and into yours, but I am surrounded by the great Elohim and the singing of the angels, for it is that through the landscape of this sound and music that these frequencies are born, for the art creates a shift and change in the space. But it is that the sound opens time. And it is that time is open through the sounds and the frequencies that reside through your own singing, moving through your own being in resonance with love, that may open your heart, for it requires to open the keys of this light and this love into the gateway of space where we reside, the opening of all of your senses in the deepest and most profound way. For you cannot be missing one of the elements or one of the senses, for they are required, for they open the doorways and are the passageway into where we live and dwell. And as I stand on the other side, welcoming you with open hearts, you notice that I am not alone, for I come in many different forms. And some of these forms are loving and beautiful and gentle and sweet, and some more jagged and hard and energetically discombobulated to the frequency you are accustomed to. And so it also would require an open and unconditional heart without judgment to recognize us, to let go of the programming that perhaps something in which is seen or observed in a way in which is not akin to the way of your liking is something other than love itself as well. For we come in many forms awaiting here, showing ourselves as the glistening and playful fairy with the wing, but yet at other times perhaps we are a creature rising out of the sea, and perhaps we have jagged edges, or our eyes are distorted from your perception. Perhaps we are landing from distant stars and galaxies, interfacing through the worlds and realms in ways in which our bodies have to adapt to the elements that are perhaps hotter or colder or wetter or drier than yours. For when we look at you too, perhaps we see you in a way in which we are not always akin to as well. And so it requires opening your mind in the receiving of these energies that appear in so many ways and forms, but are here to love you, to guide you, to awaken, to stir within you, and to bring you through these wormholes into their worlds. For as the sea beings appear, they would love to appear to you. For can you receive them and love them for who and how they are? May you travel with them, spiraling through the time and space, deep into the depths of the water and through and into their worlds, to experience what it is and how they live and experience, bringing back the many gifts that reside there for you to birth these potentials within. May you spiral down and through the great oak trees, inside them, feeling and hearing and listening to their codes as you travel into the inner earth, attuning to the fairies and the elementals, where the mushrooms are alive and singing and the worms are dancing, a frequency and a place unknown only within your imagination. May you feel them now and know that they are alive and real as you travel through the wormholes, bringing you into star systems and places and planets where only colors and shapes and geometries and patterns live and reside, moving through wormholes into the form of crystalline frequencies and cities that float above the mountains, and many scurry about, bringing about healing and change for your planet as you move through wormholes into the spaces where the fires dwell and the dragons rise, and the roaring of this energy blows through the cosmos. For there are infinite potentialities and places in which you could move, experience, and dwell, for you have been and lived in all of them and more. And yet you chose to come through the wormhole in the space that was the great design of your mother as she birthed you into reality. And now you too are birthing realities, but not through the original space of the womb in which you knew to give life to, but life through a new way of the open heart of the key that opens space through the love that dwells within of new potentials. And so we invite you not to limit yourself or box yourself into a way of being or thinking that to date has been a part of who you have been, but know that the doors are wide open and all around you, and you can pass through these passageways, for they live inside of you in each cell that resides, that multiplies in multi-billion frequencies accessible to you at any given moment in which you choose to attune to, passing through and receiving their codes of light. You are all of this, for you are the stars and the planets. So you are the gas and the water and the wind and the fire. You are the mermaids beneath the sea and the beings that reside from out in deep space. You are the colors and the rainbows, for the rainbow cannot present itself if the tear within your heart cannot drop for the sun to hit it and to express itself in a new form. For all of these energies and things are you. And so we invite you into that frequency of infinite impregnated potential that you have given birth to, which is all of this is inside of you, swirling through you, for the Milky Way, the galaxy, the stars, the starfish beneath the sea, the worms, the crystals, the fairies, the fire and the wind. It is all inside of you. And it is all potentially ready to be born again in a way in which you step through into the canvas of your reality, birthing new possibilities. So all of that potential and more is not somewhere to be found, but found inside, if only you will look. And in that, it feels so big, so expansive, so infinite, so ever ending, for it is, for there is no way to find its completion, for once you come to the end, it bursts itself out again. And so in that, open to that frequency and know that you may place upon your own understanding to shed light wherever you are choosing to express and explode new worlds inside of you. Taking a nice deep breath and breathing in all of that. All of that is moving and swirling through you. Allowing yourself to expand into that infinite potential. Releasing any limitation or judgment or lack. And allowing the energy to widen into this expansive potential in which you have always been impregnated with, that you can give birth to at any time that you choose. Bring your awareness to an energy that is around you and inside of you, as within, so without, as above, so below. You are in the soup of this potential. Allow yourself to be in that frequency and to hold it through love, which has always been the key. Bringing with you that frequency into the presence of the here and now, and holding and carrying it with you through time and space, knowing you can touch upon it. And in touching or placing attention upon any piece of that information, you bring it to life as if a hologram popping up in which you step into, which is the reality that moves through you, that is birthed through you, that is you. And so it is. And with that, you can start to come back into the presence of the here and now, expanding and opening our hearts. The doorways to the world of the wild self are few but precious. They are deep, for the doorway is within us. It's in our scars, it's in our stories, it's in our love, it's in the full potential, the beauty all around. The doors come in many forms. All you need to do is step through.